So is the slide visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let us start for today's class. So in the last class, we were discussing on the several aspects, and we just looked into at the end. We have looked into what is the biosynthetic pathway. So if we see the different means for if you go for the ethanol fermentation, so we have to before we start a fermentation of any microbial system, know that we need to select first of all the what is the ideal microorganisms that can have a higher conversion, okay, of the substrate that is there to the product. Okay, so we have seen there are generally if you see the industrial production of the ethanol, if you see the bacteria, if you see the yeast. So in the case of the yeast, we have the Saccharomyces cerevisiae. In the case of the bacteria, we have the Gymnomonas mobilis, and so on. So there are different strains. But in the case of the, so we have taken very few names of the microorganisms. It's because in our discussion, we are mostly targeted towards the industrial scale production of the ethanol. Okay, so that is one of the objective. Okay, so we have seen the what are the merits, demerits of those microorganisms, and another thing is the substrate. So means the initial substrate that we have, it actually determines the means overall economics of the process in the production of, for example, in this case we have C2H5OH, right? So the what is the ferment? What is the substrate? Okay, so it can be some sort of a mixed sugars. So if it is a mixed sugars, or suppose in the case of the lignocellulosic biomasses, we have the cellulose and other components that are there. So how do we convert this type of the mixed sugars like the sucrose, cellulose, starch, lactose into the monomeric monosaccharides like the glucose, which will actually be taken up in the biochemical pathway. So there are several uh, routes how it can be done. It can be done either with the enzymes. Okay, so like for the sucrose, we have the invertase enzyme. Cellulose, we have the cellulase. Starch, we have the alpha amylase, and for the lactose, we have the beta galactosidases. So these enzymes can selectively convert, or means it can break down the polysaccharides, okay, or the disaccharides that are there into the monosaccharide units. However, there are other routes of hydrolyzing this type of sugars. So this is known as a chemical route. So some of the chemical approaches like the low acid concentration. Okay, the acid concentration at very low as well as at a lower alkaline concentration. So the lower acid solution as well as low concentration of the alkaline solutions can actually hydrolyze these sugars, okay, into the monomeric units. So either we have the enzymatic routes for modification of or for obtaining this type of sugars, or we have the chemical routes. But generally the enzymatic routes are preferred because suppose you have taken one particular enzyme, okay, and then you have taken the your substrate, suppose the sucrose. So what you will get after hydrolysis, will get the fructose, okay, and the other product that you are going to get is the glucose, okay. But means, and along with that you will have some of the unreacted enzymes into it, okay. And that this means hydrolyzed sugars in the form of fructose and the glucose can be actually directly taken into the fermentation, okay, as a means for the growth of the microorganisms, for the inoculum of the bacteria, and so on, for the production of the ethanol. But for example, if you take the chemicals like the acids or the alkaline solutions for the hydrolysis of this type of sucrose, what will happen? After the hydrolysis, the pH of the solution will be very acidic in nature. So almost like from suppose 1 to 2. And at this pH conditions, it is not ideal or suitable for the growth of the microorganisms. So therefore, you have to work on the additional step of purifying or removing these acids. Whatever the acid is there, we have to remove them, so that, and however the removing of the acid is a challenging task, and it will lead to the additional cost of this process. But again, if you look into the enzymes, so generally enzymes or production of the enzymes or synthesis of the enzymes are generally costly. Okay. However, their means the activity or their rate of conversion of the these disaccharides or the polysaccharides into the monosaccharides are relatively higher. However, the one of the major challenge is the cost of the production of the enzymes. Okay, and generally the yield and the quality and the purity of the enzymes is also one of the major concern, because if you're going for the higher activity of the enzymes, then actually it ends up to the higher production cost. Okay, so both the enzymatic and the chemical approaches have their own advantage and disadvantages. Okay, and generally they are selected based on the processes we are going to do. Okay, because if you see the initial biomass, it can be like the lignocellulosic biomass or any rice husk or any other like you have the sugarcane hydrosols, the sugarcane residues. So each will have a different so like sugarcane sometimes have a higher content of sucrose, so depending upon the type of these are nothing but the very much primary substrates that are there. Okay, and we can select depending upon what is the initial composition, that either we go for the enzymatic or we go for the chemical based pretreatments. Okay, so then we have looked into the what are the steps. Suppose you are given the lignocellulosic biomass, so what are the steps of grinding, liquefaction, saccharifications. Okay, these are the three pretreatment steps that you need to carry out, so that we obtain all the hydrolyzed sugars. Okay, or which are generally the monosaccharides, then which actually can be used for the fermentation, and then we have the final downstream processing of the distillation to remove the volatile alcohols that is being produced. Okay, so we were actually also looking into the this is being the one of the means substrate, and this is what is currently the means currently in the translation activity, where the industries are taking up the already proven technologies for their upscaling of or utilization of all the agricultural waste into this type of ethanol or the fuel for their fuel applications. So we also looked into the another second new technology, which is at least in the research domain, is to use the synthesis gases, and they are consist of the carbon monoxide, hydrogen, which is means these are the generally the gases present in the exhaust of the automobiles, vehicles, industries, and so. Um, they tend to end up into the environment, and that we know it causes the greenhouse gases. So the technology is to use this type of emissions, the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, for the conversion into the ethanol. Okay, so some of the microorganisms, like we have discussed in the last class, they are means they have been successfully used to convert the gaseous product into the liquid based ethanol, like ethanol as a final product. Okay, and Lanzatech is one of the company which has already demonstrated its operation in the larger scale for the utilization of the CO2. However, the cost is something which is it's also a major challenge that hindering us to, for example, to scale up or mass scale this, for example, this particular technology. But down the line, we will have, for example, systems in which this type of emissions, automobile emissions or the industrial emissions, will be directed towards the production of this type of alcoholic fuels. Okay, so let us look into means we have now looked into till now we have looked into the substrate. What are the ideal substrates that can be done? We have looked into the microorganisms that can be used. So which are the yeast or the bacteria. Now let us look into that those yeast and the bacteria, those microorganisms, how they are going to means what is the, so we know in the chemical reactions we have some chemistry means some reactions like we have a reactant and a substrate which reacts to form the product. So similarly in the case of means the biological roots, where the microorganisms takes up one of the substrate, okay, and converts into the product, it actually undergoes through a series of biochemical reactions. And if you see the biochemical reactions, this suppose there is a conversion of a glucose to glucose 6 phosphate. So biochemical reactions requires some sort of an enzyme, okay, and this enzyme is activated by or upregulated or downregulated by some of the genes which actually encodes or codes the formation of this type of enzymes and so on. Okay, so biochemical reactions are highly controlled and monitored, and generally, if you see the any biochemical reactions, there are a series of reactions. Okay, means the conversion of one metabolite to the other metabolite or the other intermediates. There are several intermediates, that's steps that are there, and then you get the final product. And in between each of the steps have their own enzymes, which actually means leads to the selective modification of the one of the metabolite to the to into the another metabolite. Okay, so because of this type of characteristics, generally biochemical reactions are generally highly specific. Okay, with the formation of less byproducts or the mixture of byproducts are not present, and there is a high specific and high conversion rate of the metabolites. Okay, so being said that, however, one of the challenges with the biochemical is that the effect of temperature, pH, and other conditions which can affect the synthesis pathways are, means the parameters are higher and the parameters are sensitive. Like if you have a small change in the pH, it's going to affect the overall pathway significantly. So that's why there are both advantage and the disadvantage of the biochemical pathways. Okay, and when we have this type of series of reaction, this is what actually called as a means a cascade reactions or the cascade pathway. So generally the biochemical, any biochemical synthesis route is called as a cascade based cascade biosynthesis route or cascade reactions, where we have series of different reactions which is being carried out, okay, to get your, for example, the final product. So in the last class we have seen, so this has been the characteristics. So these are the characteristics of any biosynthesis pathway. In the last class we have seen that given, for example, the yeast to you, the how it is going to uptake the glucose. We have just seen that it is going to uptake the glucose by this glycolysis route. Okay, and this diagram here actually it tells you the what are the paths, what are the steps of this glycolysis route. So which we will see in a moment. So let us look into this, where we have seen that the glucose is actually converted into the pyruvic acid, which is nothing but the pyruvate here. And this pyruvate will work react with this enzyme decarboxylase to remove one molecule of the CO2 from there, and lead to the production of the acetaldehyde. And this acetaldehyde is converted into, so the hydrogen part of this acetaldehyde is converted to the OH group, which leads to the formation of the ethanol. And if you look at the overall reaction, so glucose, which is a 6-carbon ring, uh, is used to produce two carbon ring of carbon ethanol in the C2H5OH, right? And the 2 carbon is lost in the form of a CO2. Okay, and there is a release of the energy, that is the ATP that is there. Now let us look into the glycolysis pathway. So what are the steps or the steps are there for the glycolysis pathway? So generally this glycolysis pathway is also called as the embedded Mayrov pathway. Okay, and so the embedded So in the case of the Embrandt-Meyerhof pathway, we have the main carbon source being the glucose. Okay, so the glucose is actually metabolized, and it actually proceeds through a series of transformation reactions, which is involves phosphorylation reaction. So phosphorylation means the glucose moiety is modified to induce or introduce the phosphate groups into it. Okay, so these phosphate groups generally are known to means they are very much important for the energy production, and that is required for the growth of the microorganisms. Okay, so it has been seen that the glucose molecule metabolizes to yield two molecules of the pyruvate per one molecule of the glucose or the fructose that is being used. So let us look into the steps. So if you look into the first step of this biosynthetic glycolysis, so here the glucose will be converted into the glucose 6 phosphate. So that means in the structure of the glucose. So at the sixth position, generally at the sixth position, the phosphate group is introduced. So if we look into one of the structure of the glucose, so let us we know that the glucose is a 6 carbon ring. Okay, so generally this is like this type of chart configuration. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 and 6 carbon ring, and at this point we have the CH2OH. Okay, so numbering starts from, suppose it's 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So this being the sixth carbon. Okay, and what happens when we talked about this glucose 6 phosphate, the OH group, the CH2OH group of this glucose molecule, okay, undergoes the modifications, okay, to form the this OH. The hydroxyl group is actually replaced with the phosphate group. So in this case, if we redraw the structure of uh, of the glucose, so what will happen? So we will have here in case of in place of this OH, we will have now the PO4 as a group. Okay, so first step is to introduce this phosphate group by using the enzyme called the glucose kinase, and then this conversion of the glucose, the 6 carbon ring, to the 5 carbon phosphate fructose ring actually takes place. Okay, using the hexose isomerase enzyme. So basically, if you looked into the name of the enzyme, if it is difficult to understand or remember, here you can. It is a very easy approach to remember. Kinase means any enzyme which can introduce a phosphate group into its substrate, and here the substrate being the glucose. Okay, so that is what is called the kinase. So enzyme kinase. So glucokinase means it's taking the glucose molecule, and kinase means it is introducing the this phosphate group into the backbone of this glucose to form the glucose 6 phosphate. Similarly, here you have the phosphohexose isomerase. So isomerase means it converts the enzyme, the structure and configurations. The structure changes the ring, and phosphor means it always have the phosphate group. So hexose isomerase is it can come. Hexose means the 6 carbon ring, and that is present in the sugar. So it can isomerize the 6 carbon ring to form the fructose ring. So fructose 6 phosphate. So the glucose with 6 carbon is converted into the 5 carbon, the fructose ring. And again, we have the phosphofructokinase. So phosphofructokinase, as the name suggests, the kinase means it introduces the phosphate group. So another phosphate group is introduced in the fructose backbone to form the fructose 1,6 biphosphate. Okay. So after that, it enters a pathway of where it is being converted from the glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, okay, through the series of steps into the this phosphenol pyruvate. Okay, so there are intermediate different steps, and one of the important steps where this utilization of the phosphate or the release of the phosphate is takes place when the conversion of the 1,3 phosphoglycerate to the 3 phosphoglycerate. Okay, and the conversion of the ADP to the ATP takes place, which is nothing but the source of the energy. So the formation of ATP is very much important, which leads to the overall the power generation, generation of the energy, for example. So if you see that means here we have just talked about the single step from glucose to pyruvate, but if you see there are several intermediate steps, okay, and it leads to the generation of the ATP, which is required for the growth of the cells. Along with that, it is converting the glucose that is there into these sequential events into this pyruvate. Okay, so so generally if you see if any of the enzymes, for example, is inhibited or it is being not produced, what will happen, the conversion of the glucose to the pyruvic acid will be restricted, and because of that the overall production of for example the ethanol pathway or the ethanol through this pathway will not be carried out. So generally when we have the ethanol fermentation process, what is happening, we intake the glucose, okay, we carry out to produce a pyruvate, okay, and pyruvate is a very important step in this glycolysis pathway, and that is why actually it is called as a branch point. So why it is called a branch point? Because from this pyruvate we can either go from the production of the ethanol, or we can go for the production of some organic acids such as the citric acid or acetic acid through the TCA cycle. So we will look into this in our subsequent classes, which is another biosynthetic pathway where we can use for the production of the acetic acid, citric acid, and so on. Okay, or any type of the organic acids can be, many type of organic acids can be produced, but until this pyruvate, this glycolysis pathway, there are many intermediates. The pyruvate being means it's the intermediate step for many biosynthesis pathway, and it is called as a branch point because several pathways actually break off from this. So if you want to go for the production of, for example, the ethanol from this, so we have to maintain an anaerobic condition, as we discussed, that you have to maintain anaerobic conditions to make sure that the pyruvate, whatever is being produced, is being converted into the final product or targeted product into the ethanol. Okay, so we will keep our discussion focused in this particular topic on this like the ethanol production. And so if you want to carry out this particular step, so we have to make sure that you have a anaerobic environment, and to make sure that what are the these particular genes, particular these enzymes, the pyruvate decarboxylase or the alcohol dehydrogenase, they are means activated, and they are not inhibited by presence of any other substrate or those compounds which can inhibit them. Then what will happen, the production of the ethanol will be slowed down, okay, or it is going to undergo inhibition, and other pathways that are there that can be carried out that by that particular microorganisms will be selected, okay, which is not our desired product, okay. Therefore it is very much important to make sure whatever the these cascading enzymes that are there for this series of reactions, they should be in the form of the means they should be activated during the fermentation process. So how do we make sure that we make sure by maintaining means the ideal substrate concentration and ideal growth conditions and the parameters. So we'll look into that, how we make sure that the proper, for example, the fermentation concentration, be it the temperature, pH, or be it the media composition, is actually tuned so that we obtain the high concentration of ethanol. So before that, in this particular part, what we will talk about is the importance of this NADH and this NAD plus H plus and the NAD plus. So generally, as we have talked about in the ethanol fermentation, it is carried out means in the absence of oxygen. That means it is in the it is being carried out in the anaerobic conditions. So to make sure that so we have seen that in the last class we have talked about that during the anaerobic fermentation, there is there is a generation of an, for example, electron in within the process. Okay, So there is a requirement of an electron acceptor. Organic compound is required which can accept the electron, and means that can be recycled within that biochemical pathway. So how it is being done? So we have this organic compound precursor that is known as the nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Okay, so NAD. So this is, and if it is a H, that means it is a hydrogenase. It is in the phase form of a reduced form. So they generally this NAD plus actually takes off the electrons. That is means that is it is a very important step in the conversion of the pyruvate to the ethanol via the pathway of the acetaldehyde. So generally in the ethanol fermentation, the pyruvate is metabolized, okay, to acetaldehyde and CO2, and acetaldehyde is reduced to the ethanol via the NADH, is reoxidized to the NAD plus. Okay, so the NADH is reoxidized to NAD plus. Okay, and whatever the electron that we are talking of, the electron acceptor in the organ as a form of organic compound, the NADH actually act as that electron acceptor. Okay, and this is a very much crucial step. So if that this type of electron acceptor is not present within the fermentation media, what will happen? The conversion of this acetaldehyde to the ethanol will actually not take place. Okay, so that will go into the some production of some of type of other organic acids. Okay, so this is a very much crucial step, and we need to make sure that we add this particular the electron acceptor so that the conversion of the acetaldehyde to the ethanol actually takes place. Now coming to the overall the reaction overall biochemical pathway or biochemical reaction, it is found that each hexose, the 6 carbon of the is actually going to produce the 2 ethanol. That means which is nothing but a 51% conversion of the glucose into the ethanol. Okay, so generally 90 to 95% of the theoretical amount of ethanol is produced because certain molecules of pyruvate are consumed for cellular material during the culture growth and is not available to serve as an electron acceptor. So as we have talked about the importance of the electron acceptor, so generally if we see the this particular pyruvate, as we discussed, that it is one of the major branch point, and from this production of several biochemicals actually initiates. So generally, if you see the means, if you calculate the theoretical amount, like means how much of the glucose is there, and how much of the ethanol is being produced. Uh, so almost 90 to 95% of this is conversion is means theoretical conversion is actually matching with the when we generally carry out in the real time fermentation, but almost sometimes there's a loss of 5% and so. And why that loss is? It is because some amount of pyruvate that is here is actually used up by the cells to maintain their metabolism. Okay, like the cell growth, cell reproduction, and so on. So, so the fraction of it is being used for that data application. So, here, if you see this whatever pathway we discussed, this particular glycolysis pathway, combined with this electron acceptor, which converts the acetaldehyde into the ethanol, this pathway is actually, for example, leads to the generation of the 2 ATPs. Okay, so that means that it leads to the generation of the energy. Okay, so if you see in the case of the glycolysis pathway, the ATP yield is higher with the glycolysis, right? And this is being used by some of the yeasts, like we have the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, okay, or bitter yeast. So which so this particular microorganisms follows this glycolysis route for the production of ethanol. However, there are other routes of biosynthesis that are there. So the second route is called the KDPG, which is known as 2-keto 3-deoxy 6-phosphogluconate pathway, and it is known as the EDF pathway or Ettner-Dodorf pathway. So we'll look into that pathway, that what is the basic difference between the, for example, the glycolysis and the KDPG pathway. and what the difference it results into the final yield of the ethanol. So if you see the which bacteria actually follows which here the particular yeast, okay, is producing through the glycolysis pathway, but in this case we have Xanthomonas mobilis, okay, which is nothing but a bacteria, okay, which actually uses this ED pathway or KDPGP pathway. Okay, so in this case, once we obtain through this, so generally what is the difference? If you look into the pathways, the EMP pathway is the glycolysis pathway, right? And we have here the ED pathway, which is this enter daughter pathway, which is a pathway KDPG pathway. So if we see, there are some difference in between these two steps at some particular point, frame of point. Okay, so what is that? So we have seen that in the case of the glycolysis, the glucose is converted to glucose 6-phosphate, then fructose 6-phosphate, and fructose 1-phosphate. Okay, so so if we have this fructose 6-phosphate, fructose 1-phosphate, generally in that last slide we have seen, if you have a different substrate, like you have sucrose converts to produce you the fructose, and we have seen that the fructose is converted into the fructose 1-phosphate. Why it is converted to fructose 1-phosphate? Because this fructose 1-phosphate is actually going to end up in the glycolysis pathway at this particular point. Okay, and then it will be converted to the pyruvate, and then pyruvate to the ethanol. Okay, so if you have, for example, in your media the sucrose, so all the means the process like the glucose or sucrose, they will be carried out to the glycolysis pathway, EMP pathway. But sometimes we have some bacteria which have a different pathway. So where here what they do is convert the glucose into the gluconate. Okay, and then the gluconate is hydrolyzed with the release of water to the KDPG. So what is the KDPG? It is the 2-keto 3-deoxy 6-phosphogluconate. Okay, is converted, and then this is converted into the glyceraldehyde, and then it goes into the pathway to produce you the pyruvate, and then the pyruvate can be produced into the ethanol through this particular pathway in the presence of this type of electron acceptor. Now, if you look into the differences, that this ED pathway is going to this gluconate, means production of the gluconate derivatives. So what is the difference in the two? So here you can see that the conversion of this fructose 6-phosphate to the fructose 1-phosphate is actually energy intensive, because it's taken off one of the ATP. Okay, so some and however, in this case of the EMP pathway, we have a electron acceptor, or this inorganic compound of which is the major part, plays a major part in the electron acceptor, is actually present. So if you see this, if you combine this particular pathway with the final step of the converting the pyruvic acid, converting this particular pyruvic acid to the ethanol, if we combine these two pathways, we can see if in the case of the ED pathway, we will be requiring higher concentration of this NAD, means this NAD H plus and NAD plus. Okay, because it is required in the conversion of the pyruvate to the ethanol, as well as it is required when the glucose 6-phosphate is converted into the gluconate 6-phosphate. Okay, so that means it is going to compete. Okay, so in the two steps, either the rate of conversion of this glucose 6-phosphate to the gluconate should be higher, okay, or it should be lower. If it is higher, then the production of the ethanol from this pyruvic acid or pyruvate will be lower. So there is a competition in between the two points of the same pathway, and generally it leads to the comparatively lower yield of the ethanol, okay, compared to the means ethanol that is being produced through the glycolysis pathway. So this effect of like the production of this high concentration of, or high amount or high yield of the ethanol in presence of through using the glycolysis pathway under the anaerobic conditions is actually what is called the Pasteur effect. Okay, so it is nothing but it is in this case the facultatively anaerobic microorganism. So what does the term facultatively anaerobic means? So it is an organism. So if you look into definition of that, so it is an organism so that makes ATP by the aerobic respiration if oxygen is present, but it's capable of switching to the fermentation if the oxygen is absent. So this is the microorganisms. What they do is they generally make the ATP. So ATP is the source of energy when they are in the case of the aerobic respiration. And what happens during this? They increase the biomass. So that in the biomass increase means the number of cells, okay, and the other things means the cell growth. So these are actually activated, okay, and during this aerobic respiration, which leads to generation of a lot of ATP, okay, in the case of the aerobic condition. And once you, for example, convert from the aerobic respiration to the anaerobic condition, what is happening? It starts to the switching of fermentation. Now what does it mean, switching of fermentation? It means the production of the, for example, in our case it is the ethanol, or for it can be any particular product under the anaerobic conditions. So once the anaerobic conditions where like the oxygen that is displaced out from the fermenter, okay, and so then it starts to produce the ethanol. So first step is to get the higher biomass concentrations under the aerobic condition, and then make then taking out the oxygen, okay, and make in a closed chamber, carry out the fermentations in the absence of any oxygen. So what will that high concentrated biomass will do? Whatever the glucose is being present, that in the fermentation media, that will be converted to the ethanol, okay, through the biochemical pathway we have seen. So this effect where like significantly more glucose is converted under the anaerobic conditions than under the aerobic conditions is what is called the Pasteur effect. And this is Pasteur effect is occurs because of the presence of the high ATP content during the during the anaerobic conditions, because we have seen in the anaerobic conditions there is a production of, for example, the two ATPs are there, right? Two ATPs are produced, so we have a higher ATP, and this as the ATP concentration increases, the overall the production of the ethanol is also increases, because if you see in most of so are the enzymatic reactions, and some of them are also reversible in nature. So if we have the means the higher ATP content, somehow this higher ethanol productivity actually leads to the higher ethanol productivity. Okay. Now, so anyone has any questions or doubts in these two pathways that we have discussed? Anyone? Hello, am I audible?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I had doubt in the ED pathway, that point which you told about NADH and that it will compete with that. So I didn't understand.
Okay. So what is happening when you make your develop your means fermentation process you have developed? Okay, so now you have to design your media. You have to design your substrate media in such a way. You have to make sure that all the components are present, starting from, for example, the glucose. Okay, which is nothing but a carbon source. Then we have some sort of a proteins and some sort of a cofactors, okay, and some sort of these other compounds that are there, that should be there. Now so we make sure that all the substrates and all the cofactors and all those things are there in such a way that each, like you see, there is a series of or sequences of these reactions going on, and each process, suppose let us take like we have in this case, uh, sorry, like we have here the ATP is converted to the ADP plus one of the phosphate. in one step we will find this ADP is there, okay, and here we will require one more phosphate to convert the ATP. So actually each and every steps have some enzymatic enzymes that are responsible for the conversion of one metabolite to the another. Okay, and if somehow some particular metabolite, suppose the phosphate is absent, completely absent in the media component, okay, so then that particular step is going to be inhibited, okay, and then what will happen? The overall productivity of the ethanol it will be reduced or will be affected. Now coming to your point on the NAD plus, NAD plus to NADPH. So in the case of when you are doing the anaerobic fermentation, there is a means as I told you that in the we need some sort of an organic compound where it has to be an electron acceptor. Like because if you see the means the structure, we have the aldehyde structure, and this aldehyde structure has to be converted to an alcoholic structure. So that means we have to introduce in this case OH or the alcohol dehydrogenase. That means the OH group has to be introduced to form this. So during this formation process, there is a transfer of electrons along this structure. So we need to have an electron acceptor. Okay, and the only electron acceptor that is there is called this nicotinamide dihydrogenase. Okay, now for example, you have so if you go with this glycolysis pathway, so most of the steps are the, for example, the production of the ATP, okay, and there is one step where we have this NAD plus is converted. There is an electron acceptor step is there, so the electron is accepted by the NADP is NAD plus reduced to NADH. Now the thing is, so for example, we have if in the glycolysis pathway we have the two steps where we have this requirement of the NADH, okay, as such. And if you see the ED pathway, we have one step where we require this NAD plus and NADPH, okay, and we have the second step where we have this conversion of NAD plus to NADH, and you have the third step here. The NADH and NADH plus. So that means there are three steps at which we are requiring this NAD, this organic compound. Okay, so now it is very much important. Like when we have the, for example, the substrate, the presence of any particular this type of organic compound, because NAD, this nicotinamide actually we do not supply. It is being synthesized by the cells by their cellular machinery. Okay. We have not studied that how it is being synthesized, but it is being synthesized in a cellular machinery, but it is being carried out with the substrate that are present. So if we have the higher means the requirement of this particular or this organic compound, what will happen? There will be a competition, means availability of that particular organic compound for the conversion of this glucose 6-phosphate to gluconate 6-phosphate, or from the glyceraldehyde to the glyceraldehyde 1-3-phosphate, or from the acetaldehyde to the ethanol. So the requirement, there will be a competition between these three-step reactions, that which one is required, means it will be supposed distributed equally. Okay, so that means this particular compound is going to be the limiting nutrient or limiting factor in deciding the conversion of this acetaldehyde to the ethanol. So the amount of this particular organic compound that is supposed available for the conversion of this acetaldehyde to the ethanol, which is the most important step in this fermentation, the availability of this particular organic compound will be less, because there are two other sources where they are being used up. Okay, they are being used and they are being converted into some other forms. So because of that, in this case of the ED pathways, generally the ethanol production is low, because the organic compound availability of this NADH plus organic compound is low for this particular step. So did you get the point, Sloka?
Yes, sir. Yes, understood.
So because of this competition of as a limiting nutrient, they play a like a competitive part in during this type of reactions. Now let us look into. So we have looked into now the pathway. We have looked into the substrate. We have looked into the microorganisms. And now next what we are going to look into is to understand what is the reactor configurations. Okay, and what are the parameters like the fermentation conditions. So fermentation conditions means the temperature, pH, amount of oxygen, the ethanol, that is the amount of product requirements, sugar requirements. Okay, and then we'll look into the process flow diagram of the overall production of the ethanol. Okay, and then we will have some sort of a calculations to understand when you have a process flow diagram, we generally carry out a different mass balance and the energy balance. Okay, so we'll look into those things. So let us look into the first of all the reactor configurations that are there. So there are two types of the processes, and depending upon them your fermenter or the reactors are designed. So either we have for example the batch process. Okay, so in the case of the batch process, what we do, we have seen the three type of reactors: the batch reactor, the fed batch reactors, right? And we have seen the third one was the perfusion reactors, right? So in the case of the batch process, which is generally in the most of the conventional ethanol fermentations, what we do, we include all the substrate. We add the microbial inoculum, which is the microorganisms, suppose the yeast or the bacteria, and in all together in all one at once, all together the substrate, the microorganism, everything is added at once, and the fermentation is carried out for the time period of the 4 to 10 days. Okay, and if you see the reactors, generally they consist of mechanically agitated impellers with for example, so generally they are, as we know that this is a anaerobic system. That means we make sure the means the oxygen is not present within the reactor. So how do we make sure that? So first of all, when we prepare the growth media components, so we dissolve it in the, for example, the water or the aqueous environment or the aqueous solutions. So we actually do the process which is called as a sparging. Okay, so what we do is we sparge with some of the gases like the nitrogen or some of the heavy gases, or these are nitrogen, argon, they are the inert gases. Okay, and when we sparge with this, what is the sparging? So we bubble the gases through this growth media. Okay, so when we bubble them with this type of argon, especially which is heavier than the nitrogen, what it does is displaces the dissolved oxygen, okay, that is present within the media. Okay, so it displaces out because it plays, so the main fundamental thing is it plays with the solubility of the gases. So as the argon is purged into it, whatever the soluble oxygen is there, that is displaced from this particular solution, and then it is put into these reactor closed reactor systems. Okay, where we try to maintain that, make sure that the oxygen is not present. Okay, so generally this particular fermentation is carried out for 4 to 10 days. Okay, the time as well as and the duration of this fermentation actually is being optimized and is continuously monitored. Okay, through the inline, there are some inline sensors and apparatus that are there. So how much time of the fermentation we carried out will depends upon the optimization process that we do. So generally the fermenter has a very simple design, like it is having a impeller in the center. Okay, like any of the bioreactors or any of the reactor or chemical reactors. And why that impeller is there is to decrease the diffusion limitation. So what is the diffusion limitations? I guess I've already discussed. Generally, we are having here in the particular reactor the media, right? The media components are present. So these particular media components need to be effectively transferred from the whatever the media components. Suppose you have the carbon source, glucose source, so they has to be effectively transferred from the media to, for example, this is a the microbial cell. So they have to easily effectively transferred from this reactor system to this the cellular system. So to have that but there were several resistances that are there. So we know that the cells have their cell membranes, Okay, so there is a resistance in the transport of these media components to the inside of the cellular membrane, because once it is inside the cellular membrane, then only the all the biochemical reactions or the biochemical pathways that are there, that is going to start. Okay, so so we make sure that there is a uniform. So how do we overcome these diffusion limitations? We make sure there is a uniform mixing of the cells with, for example, of in the bioreactor with the growth media components. Okay, so that is done by the impeller, and the diffusion limitations are overcome. Okay, so once this particular fermentation is over, and so in the case of the batch wise, what we do is we add the carbon source. That is the your, for example, the glucose source at all in one together. So generally we have a high concentration of the carbon source in the fermenter. So that actually sometimes leads to the inhibitory effect that can be overcome by the continuous fermentation process. Hello. So after that fermentation of this done, it is being recovered using the distillation. So distillation we will look into later. So this is a part of the batch process, where all the media components and everything are actually added all together in one all together in one go. Okay. Now coming to the continuous operations. So generally in the continuous operations, we are what is the advantage of it? So we have already talked earlier that means the microbial cells cannot tolerate the high concentration of the glucose that is suppose added at one time in the batch fermentation process. So to overcome that, we make sure we find out that what is the maximum glucose concentration, okay, this particular cells can tolerate, and we find out that concentration, and we developed for example a fed batch reactor like system in which we add the glucose concentration at a means we maintain the rate of the glucose concentration at such way that it doesn't overcomes that maximum glucose concentration that actually inhibits the growth of this particular microbial cell. And whatever the ethanol is produced, so one of the challenges with the ethanol fermentation is that the ethanol as it is produced during the batch fermentation, what is happening, the concentration of ethanol will go on increasing, right, as the glucose is converted to the ethanol. But this ethanol is also toxic to the cells after it reaches a threshold concentration, and then actually it inhibits the growth of the microorganisms. Okay, and it kills the microorganisms within the batch. So what is done in this case in the continuous fermentation, the glucose, to overcome the glucose barrier, the glucose is added at different time intervals, and then for the product is produced ethanol, that is also continuously taken out. Okay, so we will look into this details of this particular, that how and what rate, how do we control these things in the fed batch or in the perfusion reactor as such, which leads to the continuous production of the ethanol in our next class. And this continuous production is something very much important when you are doing for the industrial fermentations. So for the industrial processes, we would always like to have a process in which it can continuously produce your particular product. For example, here in the ethanol. Okay, so anyone has any questions or any doubts of what we have studied till now? Anyone? Okay, so if not, so let us continue our discussion in the next class. Okay, so thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir.